Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with Gambit number 4. I was finally able to go online and found a decent, nice-looking, inexpensive copy. So here we are, the last part. I didn't realize that the price of this miniseries was starting to go up online. I was just like, goodness gracious. But that's okay. It's worth it. You know, it's, again, not one of those ones where, you know, it's like 1/1000th of a variant or first appearance or death of. It's just a written story. And when you read it in its entirety, it reminds me of a Shakespearean story and kind of the way it's written here by Howard Mackey. So let's go ahead and talk about who made this before we jump into it. It's called Thief of Time. Story and art, Howard Mackey, Lee Weeks, Klaus Janson, with Jason Gorder, art assistant. Colorist Steve Buccoletto. Letterer Richard Starkins. Editor was Bob Harris and chief was Tom DeFalco. The print date on this was March 1994. Now let me kind of read this to you. I know you're looking at that, you're going to read all of that to me. But just listen. If you're playing video games or whatever, just let my voice whisk you away. Deep within the French quarters of New Orleans, drifting back to a time when he and New Orleans were a bit younger. A time of votive candles, prayers to the saints, and the smell of incense filling the air. The man called Gambit finds himself lost in a dark revere. A time when the thieves gathered in this holy place to pray, to confess their sins, to seek some peace in an otherwise confusing existence. A peace found in the place, the Church of the Lost Thieves. Too many years have gone by since this mutant thief left, genuflected before the altar. Too many transgressions, too much living. And now he returns, not to pray nor to worship, but to hunt an enemy. But the momentary fear he has for his soul is quelled by the knowledge that he may be forgiven for his transgressions. He comes here not out of anger, but of love, to save the life of Belladonna, his wife. How can this action be viewed as a sin? And if it be so, then it is a sin with which Gambit is willing to live. Now that's how you start a book, because it ties up what Gambit's essentially doing in this miniseries, and we really delve into his life, which I really like. And again, if you guys have seen the animated series, they kind of did a loose paraphrase episode of this, which I kind of wish they would have dug in deeper, but the subject matter is a little too dark for the show. Now, Gambit was created by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. Now, he's come to this church because if you remember last issue, if not, you can go check out the review. He grabbed one of the vials from Kendra. There has to be 2 to be mixed in order to get the longevity life, which is what he's after in this ticking clock dilemma of saving his wife. Julian is her brother. He was supposed to have died, I think, in X-Men 3 or 4. I got to go back and reread that era. But those books tie into this. Again, just so y'all know, this was the early days when Rogue and Gambit were attracted to each other, but they're not the couple that we know them as now. Julian, on the other hand, he is sort of playing the wild card. He wants to eliminate the guilds, and he wants to have all the power to himself. And you know, this is the South, and it's just kind of like, really. But he also wants his sister, so it's just like, meh. Anyway, we're gonna move on past that. But you see him sitting here. This is Julian, and he goes, "One vial containing the elixir of life be not enough. You are to steal the other vial. You, the one you thieves got from the tithe collector. The deal was for you to be bringing that one to me. And then I'll be hunting down my sister's stinking thief of a husband, kill him, and tear the vial from his dead hands. Then I will have the long life at last." Now, Gambit supposedly was supposed to have killed Julian in the X-Men books, but he's back. So there's a whole lot of that going on that I'm vaguely familiar with, but it's been so long. But you learn a terrible truth about the elixirs here as we see Julian's face. And I love this noirish, how it's painted in shadows, the heavy lines, the pinkness in the irises here, the yellow teeth, makes him look like he is strung out on something, right? Well, we may be onto something like that. Again, read the book. Now, before Gambit can talk to his father about what's going on, the tithe collector arrives. And he is the one who works for the externals, who is Kandra. And I think Gideon was somewhere in on this, I can't remember. But anyway, here he is with assassins and thieves alike. And he's telling both of the guilds that in order to restore the pact that they once had, they have to kill Gambit. And so people that he'd known his whole life, that he'd made alliances with, those he saw as friend, brother, it's now a civil war. And Gambit has laid his claim on where he stands with his telekinetic energy. It says, the thieves and the assassins recognize the glow surrounding the statue as something other than divine intervention. Gambit's mutant powers have been witnessed by some of those who now run for cover. Rarely has he used these powers to transmute potential energy into kinetic energy on such a large object. The situation is desperate. The explosion, deafening. So I'll leave that here, but I just like that this shows where Gambit's standing with everybody, where he's not going to take any more crap from anyone. He only cares about saving Belladonna. Which brings us back to the Garden District. Rogue is kind of, in a sense, transfixed in her own thoughts. Tanti Mati, I forget her name, hold on. I cannot find it. But anyway, she's like the caretaker of both guilds, essentially. And she's asking Rogue what happened. If you recall, instinctively, or it was like a reflex, Belladonna grabbed Rogue's bare skin. So now Rogue has the memories of Belladonna's life with Gambit. And she's very much enthralled with the thoughts, because they're starting to mix with her own feelings for Gambit. So everything that she's envisioning of Belladonna, she's seeing Gambit. And what's killing her more about it, as we all know, Rogue's powers hinder her from human physical contact. So being able to see this has to be something of just pure longing and desperation of, just the need to touch another human being. Now we return to Gambit's house that he bought in the Garden District, and that's where Belladonna is. He was so quiet here in the Garden District. The reason I bought this house, dreams of settling down here someday. But this be too quiet. No dogs barking, no crickets chirping. They be seeking to keep me from my house, from my wife. It won't be happening. And so he's saying, let's get this over with. I'm in a hurry. And so again, hail of gunfire as Gambit fights furiously to save Belladonna. And imagine the hurt this man's feeling. He's like, I once thought of you as brothers. Through a gauntlet of pain, Gambit is driven by anger. The faces of childhood friends and enemies flash by, all intent on his murder. He wonders at the chain of events that have brought him to this point. Pain and suffering are afflicted on both sides. But in the end, the outcome of the battle was never in doubt. And so Gambit has to kill off his past in order to save someone that he's loved for so long. Just imagine having to lash out at people that meant the world to you at one time in history. Now, there is a confrontation with the tithe collector, which I do not want to get into. Now, Julie and Gambit thought that they kind of come to a relatively uneasy pact. Again, read the book. I did not want to spoil that. But as you can see, Julian smashing through, rapier in hand. The elixir is mine, thief. No, Julian, your sister's going to live. Stay away, and maybe I can help you too. And there's lots of stakes, lots of decisions. Again, lots of heartbreak that happen in these last few pages that I just do not want to give away. There's choices to be made. Do you go back to the old ways? Do you try something new? What do you do in your last moments of pure desperation? And lastly, what do you do when you're one who thinks that you're not deserving of love? These are all things that are in this book. So goes the legend of Gambit. Now, I didn't want to spoil too much because when you read all 4 issues in its entirety, in this one in particular, everything gets summed up, everything makes sense, and it just wrenches your heart because it's one of those bittersweet endings. Again, like I would say, such as a Shakespearean play as like Macbeth being, or not Macbeth, Hamlet, I'm sorry. Very much akin to that kind of pain and loss and consequences. And that is a sign of some damn good writing, and that's what you get with this Gambit miniseries. I highly, highly recommend it. The artwork, spectacular. Writing, spectacular. Everything about it will keep you enthralled and you won't be able to put them down. If you have enjoyed this, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. If you can find it, good luck. Fingers crossed for you. If you have enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with y'all and hearing your feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I will make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.